It's 5:07 on a Tuesday. You've made it through another day. The laundry's done, dinner's on the stove, you've answered 47 emails, and your hand is reaching for the wine bottle before you've even decided you want a glass. It's just automatic, like breathing, like checking your phone, like the 100 other things you do without thinking. Today, we're exploring what happens when reaching for the bottle stops becoming about relaxation and becomes something else entirely. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button to get more real insights. Jenn Kautsch is the founder of Sobersis, a community that helps women rethink their relationship with alcohol in a practical, judgment-free way. She's spent years helping women understand the quiet patterns that can show up in midlife, especially when life feels overwhelming and the evening habits start to take over. Jenn's led tens of thousands of women through her 21-day reset, which is designed to help them live with more clarity and intention. I invited her because she understands how easy it is for women to slip into autopilot when everything else looks fine on the outside, and how powerful it can be to pause long enough to notice what's really going on inside. Hi, Jenn. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Holly. I'm really looking forward to it. We've already connected so much, and I look forward to our combo just continuing on.
Yeah, so am I. And it's because I realized that there are so many women in midlife that get to this point where the days just feel heavy. And then we develop these little habits to kind of make our evenings a little bit easier. But it's funny because those habits start to not feel so good after a certain amount of time. And you've been really open about your own story, how maybe you fell into that trap with these habits that weren't really working for you, and that maybe you were leaning on them a little bit more than you meant to.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, my story kind of starts off where really my social drinking picked up in my young 30s as a working mom, where I was at home with my kids by day and doing some network marketing and just meetings and stuff in the evenings. And so, oh my goodness, that really kind of got me in the happy hour flow of things. And that's also when the mommy wine juice culture was just really, that concept was just being formally introduced, I guess you could say, with the marketing and messaging around alcohol, which is you deserve it. It's grown up. It's glamorous. So there I was, a young mom, in my young 30s with, 4 and 5 year old, and just getting to these happy hours and thinking, oh, if I can just make it there, that's my reward for all the day's work and all the stress and all the craziness that can come with life, getting lifey. And before I knew it, what started out as a reward somewhat turned into a habit. And then before I knew it, it was the routine, like literally living on autopilot. It is the routine of wine o'clock. Is it 5 o'clock yet? Is it wine o'clock yet? And healthy by day, super mindful, checking all the boxes, like in a really crazy way, like almost like trying to be like high performing, overachieving, perfect mom, perfect wife, perfect everything. And then that's a lot to keep up with. So by 5 o'clock, you can better believe I was looking for ways to unwind. And nothing wrong with unwinding and rewarding yourself. It's just, what are we rewarding ourselves with? And is it really serving us? And is it really self-care if it's taking from us rather than giving to us?
Yeah, it's hard to notice that in the moment. And I think you
Yes.
use this phrase, detox to retox loop. We get really good during the day. We're eating right and working out, walking, doing all these great things. And then dinner comes along and you just fall into this weird habit. Can you talk about that phrase a little bit?
Sure. And yeah, I love that phrase, detox to retox, because so many of my choices during the day where I felt like I was really making this very active, intentional choice was all about health and wellness and detoxifying the chemicals, the toxins. I mean, I'm buying organic. I'm, juicing, all my greens. I'm like doing all the things, in my faith journey. I'm waking up and having an excellent prayer time. So intentional, so detoxifying from all the junk that I think floods our world. And then again, going back to this crazy vicious cycle. But in the evening, well, I don't want to be so vigilant. I don't want to be so responsible. I'm tired of checking boxes. I'm just flat out tired. And so I think I was tired of overdoing it, over codependency, right? Over functioning, overdoing it. And talk about a relationship. I didn't realize I was actually becoming a bit codependent on my relationship with drinking. And that is a real relationship. And I didn't even know that you could have a relationship with a substance, a drink, but it became like a companion for me when I was bored, lonely, tired, hungry, anxious, celebrating, sad, you name it. Alcohol was like, hey, I'll be there. I'll come with you. I'll be the guest of honor at your party. If you're sad, I'll comfort you. I mean, really, it slipped in very subtly over time. Really took most of my 30s to kind of get in that slot where it was this vicious cycle. And then I really found myself drinking more often than I wanted to, sometimes drinking more than I wanted to, doing things that were misaligning to me, but feeling less and less in control of those choices where I'd been in control all day. And I was kind of in a weird way, and I know women listening will understand, I kind of wanted to let go of a little bit of control. I wanted to turn off the overfunctioning mind. I wanted to kind of numb out some of that vigilance. So that's what I did. I would kind of retox myself. I would bring in what we now know is a carcinogen. It's a toxic substance that alters our mind and takes away our presence. And that started the vicious loop of waking up again. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to detox again. I'm going to go sweat it out at the hot yoga class. I'm going to the steam room. I am going to eat more, healthy food. I'm going to drink 1,000 times more water. All these detox only to lead me back to retox. And that was the cycle for years.
We've normalized that process for so many of us. It just seems like, well, that's okay because I'm taking care of myself now. It's okay if I do this in the evening. But now in midlife, when there's a lot of heavy things coming our way and maybe there's just a little bit more quiet in the house, it leaves this space that we're trying to fill with, a glass of wine. But sometimes it's not always one glass, then it's two glasses. And I feel it's just this perfect storm for women coming together at just the wrong time.
At just the wrong time, because you're so right, Holly. Because what happens is, when we've got maybe our kids at home, or we've got to wake up for, getting to work, or getting the morning started early the next day. But when you kind of start slipping into this empty nester phase, life can kind of finally slow down a little bit. Seems like less eyes are watching. Nobody really cares what you're doing. Like everybody's doing their own thing. And it's easy to minimize our presence. And the fact that we do need to look alive in our own life. And it's easy just to go, you know what? I'm just kind of going to sit in front of the TV and my job is done. I'm just going to kind of glide, kind of coast, kind of drift. And then we wind up feeling insignificant sometimes and out of alignment and lost without a purpose. And then we get in that mode where it's like, well, that's what I do. And like you said, it's become very normalized in our society that, it's just a pleasantry that just kind of gets us through. And what that really communicates is kind of a survival mode mentality versus really thriving in your own life by being intentional and purposeful throughout your whole lifetime instead of just when, you've got kids at home or you're in that, high powered work job. How about just being you? That's enough. That's enough reason to stay present in your own life because you've got more to do.
There are times, though, where from talking with other women that I feel we're almost a little afraid of looking at that part of our life because then we're going to have to figure something out. We're going to have to figure out what that next part of our life is going to look like. Yeah. And sometimes it's a little bit easier if we numb ourselves and make excuses. Well, maybe I'll look at that later, or
Yeah.
I'll attack that tomorrow.
Yeah. It's so easy. It's just so it's really our default button, if
Mhm.
you will. It's kind of the path of least resistance. And I know because I did it for years, just stuck in this loop. And what I started to notice about myself in this loop was I was playing small. I was getting smaller and smaller in my own life, in my own family, with my own thoughts, with my own, where I didn't want to have conflict with my kids. I didn't really want to buck the system with kind of the way that marriage had been working for me for 20 years. It was bravery to begin to pop the hood, if you will, in my own life. But my catalyst to change really happened in my mid 40s. We have two children in their mid 20s now. And my oldest, my daughter, she had just turned 13 the year I turned 40. So
Okay.
it's like game on with the hormonal storm of like 40 and getting into that perimenopause and just 40. You kind of show up at 40 like I should have life a little bit more figured out by now.
Mhm.
And I showed up at 40 very overwhelmed. We had just moved, changed schools, lots going on. So I was really kind of under the pile, if you will, of my own life. And then I had a teenager just
Mhm.
entering in. So the next 5 years for me, her 13 to 18, my 40 to 45 age was my 5 years of, and that's not a reflection on her. Really, it's a reflection of how easy it is to get lost in the shuffle of life
Mhm.
and how we just get in these ruts. And so she was graduating high school and moving on to her next phase, really quite honestly, getting to reinvent herself. Think about it. These high school seniors that go on and graduate and move on to college or whatever their life plan is, or, if you've got a young child that is little that they grow up and they actually get married, that they get to reinvent themselves. You do start to hit a place in life when you're middle-aged, I'll bust out and say it, where it feels like, well, that's it. I mean, there's no more transitions. I'm here. And it's so easy to feel that way. And I felt that way at 45 years old. I was like, wow, I've worked myself out of a job in the sense that I've got people growing up and leaving. And what am I going to do? I kind of want to reinvent myself. Like, what would that be like if I
Mhm.
could really take the wisdom that I've learned through the years, mainly through trial and error, and show up in my own life in a different way? What if I just didn't carry on and become a professional patio drinker in my
Oh,
50s, which I was heading that way. I was heading that
yes.
way of like, I'll just be a professional patio drinker. That was going to be me. And then I think God just said, yeah, I mean, you could do that, but what if there's more? And that was scary, Holly. I mean, you
Mhm.
really hit on something. That was a big moment for me where I thought, wow, I could stay the same, which is actually very uncomfortable because I really don't like the way my life is going. I'm playing small. I have little energy. I'm sleeping horribly. I feel overweight, overrun, overpowered, over it. And I thought I can continue on and just kind of medicate that feeling, or scary as it is, I can really shake the boat here and actually start looking at areas of my life that I really don't think are aligning. And maybe, just maybe, I mean, I didn't know if it was possible, but just maybe I could show up at 50 different than I did 40. And so at 46 years old, that became my goal. How can I show up at 50 different than I did 40? And I knew this was not going to be like a juice cleanse or like a weekend getaway.
No.
This was going to take a lot of work and practice and just popping the hood in my own life and really getting under, like you mentioned earlier, some of those root causes, some of the beliefs that I had that were so limiting to me. And I pictured it taking not even days, but ultimately weeks, months, and years because I'm still on that journey. I don't think you
Mhm.
ever arrive. And so the catalyst for me changing was to show up differently in my own life. While she was transitioning, I was wanting something different too. And I thought, you know what? There's a lot of things I need and want to change in my life that are not that's not really working for me. But I know that alcohol piece. I know that
Yeah.
tangible wine o'clock habit that turned into a routine that I'm living on autopilot is not serving me. I didn't know any of the science at that point, which I can't wait to share more about the science, but I didn't know. I just knew intuitively this is not really helping me. It's not doing me any favors. So I thought I'll start there. I
Hmm.
can't like unravel this whole ball of yarn that's all twisted up and kind of a little bit of a mess at this midlife, married 20 years, teenagers about to graduate. I mean, there I was. And I thought, if I could just pull out one piece of yarn from the ball of tangle I pull out the alcohol piece. If I could figure that out, maybe I would sleep better. Maybe I would wake up with more energy. Maybe I would trust myself more and stop abandoning myself in the evenings. That was the journey that I went on, and that's the journey I'm still on.
I do like what you just said about abandoning yourself in the evening, because I think that's exactly what so many of us are doing. And, just in all fairness, I did find myself in that same trap. The last, I'd say, maybe 10 years, I've had a lot of like different, all of these life transitions hit me, and it felt like it was all in a row. There was an empty nest, and then I lost my parents, and COVID, and there's all this weird stuff that kind of happened. And we settle into this routine because it is culturally acceptable. And the friends would be like, just come on over. Let's have a glass of wine and talk about it. Then you open up the bottle and you finish the bottle, and then there's snacks, and it turns into a habit that was once with friends. Now it's by yourself. And yeah, I do feel like at times I abandon myself, and it takes a hard look in the mirror to realize that you don't want to feel that way anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it's scary to change, but it's also scary to stay the same. It's kind of like you've heard that phrase, I'm sure, pick your hard. It's hard to change a habit. It's hard to do something that maybe you've relied on. I relied on
Mhm.
to find that sense of comfort or just the little treat and the reward that it feels like in the first 20-30 minutes. And that's what I started to really unravel first. That was first out of the gate, was when I started changing my relationship with alcohol. I didn't need a label. I didn't want a bunch of rules, because I knew I would just break the rule because I'd already made rules for myself that I had broken. So I didn't need more rules, um, at all. A label made me feel, I don't know, trapped kind of in a way. I found myself in this gray area of drinking. And it was about that time in 2017 that I heard the term gray area drinking. Hey, I didn't know that you could be in the gray area. I thought you were either an alcoholic or you weren't.
Yes.
You had a good relationship with alcohol, no big deal, nothing to see here. Or you are an alcoholic, you can't drink at all, like, you need a label, you need, like, pick one. And that seemed too black and white to me, too, all or nothing. And my drinking wasn't necessarily all or nothing every time. I could cut back, I could seemingly moderate until I couldn't. It was a management issue for me, but I did not have a big rock bottom moment. I didn't get a DUI. I wasn't, you know, endangering myself
Hmm.
or others. It was a mental, emotional relationship that I found, quite honestly, very addicting. But the physical addiction hadn't quite gotten to the point where I couldn't stop on my own. I knew that I could because I'd done it many, many times.
Hmm.
And I could stop, I just couldn't stay stopped. Because when I did stop, I felt miserable, deprived, and left out because I didn't change my mindset. I just changed my behavior. And by just changing the behavior, nothing on the inside changed. And then I was always on the outside looking in when my friends were drinking or my husband was drinking. And what I didn't want was to say, I want that, but I can't have it. I wanted to not want it. I wanted to say, I can drink, but I don't want to. I don't desire that anymore. I can drink what I want when I want. I can have it. I don't want it, which is very different than I want it and I can't have it.
Yes. Because then
And
you desire it even more.
it makes it even worse.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that was where I began, was how do I change my desire for drinking that I didn't always have. It wasn't until I started drinking on a regular basis that that desire even got stronger. I went through the majority of my college years and 20s as a non-drinker. I mean, I had a drink here and there, and I did not desire it. I didn't desire more of it when I had it. I didn't like the taste. I didn't like the way it made me feel. It was awesome. And I didn't even know how awesome it was because it wasn't a desire that I had that I was chasing. It wasn't until I got in the detox to retox loop and into that social cycle and circle of drinking that then I began to desire it more and more. So, I've heard it said we create that desire based on repetition and reward. It's just a dopamine pattern. And so I created the desire by rewarding it more and more often.
Yes.
And before I knew it, I am now stuck in this loop that I wasn't always in. So how do I get back to the girl or the woman who wasn't maybe always there? And some
Right.
of your listeners are like, Jen, I've always been there. I started drinking as a teenager and I've never looked back and I'm 60. That's okay. I work with women who also have had that experience, but there is a part of you that did not always desire alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, picture it, Holly. I mean, you and I are new friends. What if we met as little girls on the playground? I wouldn't go, Holly, did you bring a six pack? Did you bring a bottle so we can have fun and connect? No, we would have been,
No.
where's the swings?
Yes.
And so
Mhm.
as adults, we've trained ourselves that this is how we connect. This is how we have fun. This is how we unwind. And it's actually an unlearning of that and practicing just another way. And when you look at it that way, it's like, okay, I can kind of take that and reverse engineer, like, how did I get there? And then how did it start? And work your way almost backwards to the beginning.
Well, I could clearly see that. And I'm sure when someone else sits down and reflects on their life, you see where it started.
Yeah, for sure. It wasn't always that way. And so, again, you're not broken. I want your listeners to hear they're not broken.
Mm-hmm.
Just your pattern's broken, and that can be fixed. And that can be changed. And there's great hope and there's great support out there for changing the pattern, which is really what drinking is. In my book, Look Alive Sis, I say in the book, kind of one of my main mantras is I had a thinking problem more than a drinking problem.
Hmm.
So I really had to go back to my thinking and the value that I was assigning alcohol and begin to devalue it. Women ask me all the time that I work with in Sober Sis, Jen, do you still kind of crave it? Do you still kind of want it? And I'm like, honestly, no. I am 8.5 years living this alcohol-free lifestyle at the time of this recording, hopefully making it onward and upward to, a decade and more, and just living my life. I'm not really counting days. I do celebrate years of living alcohol-free because it's celebrating years of being present, sober-minded, awake, alert, aware. But a lot of women ask me, don't you still kind of crave it? Don't you, when you go to a party and everyone's drinking, don't you want it? And I'm like, well, I did at first. When I first stopped drinking, when like I flipped a switch and all of a sudden just didn't want alcohol. Oh, I wanted it. But I had to retrain my brain to catch up with my new mindset while I was learning all this science and all the stats about how alcohol affects women, specifically in perimenopause and menopause. The stats out there are just staggering, really shocking. And a lot of people don't know about that. And so what I started to do, Holly, was I just started practicing devaluing alcohol to the point that when I got to a party or under stress or in a social event, alcohol didn't bring me the value that it used to. I saw it as something that took from me rather than something that gave to me.
Can we talk about some of those stats? Because I
Oh,
don't think we realize how many of us have found ourselves in this position that you and I are talking about, where, wine o'clock, we're looking at our watches counting down. So what are some of those statistics that you have uncovered over the years?
Yeah. And I'll just go ahead and bust out and say it. We've been duped. We
Mhm.
have been duped by the big alcohol. There's big everything, big tech, big pharma, big, big, big. Well, there's also big alcohol, and they don't want us to necessarily know um, all the disadvantages and chemicals and all the effects. So
Mhm.
I love that more people are starting to talk about it. And it's not to shame the drinker, it's really to more look at the product itself. The product is just selling the product, which is you'll be this way, you'll feel this way. And no, it's not true. So here's just a few. I've written some down, so I made sure that I could cover these today. Well, first off, this is going to be huge for your audience. Alcohol intensifies hormonal fluctuations. Well, we certainly don't need any more of
No.
those. Alcohol directly disrupts estrogen and progesterone balance. So these are two hormones that are already in flux during perimenopause. So it increases mood swings, irritability, and anxiety. We women, we often misinterpret hormonal chaos as just normal midlife. We just chalk it
Mhm.
up, and really not realizing how much alcohol is amplifying that. It's like alcohol pours gasoline on an already really sensitive hormonal system. So, hormonally speaking, I mean, your body, and we can talk about metabolism as well, because here we all are trying to,
Mhm.
work on the metabolism, which we know changes and decreases as we get older. Oh my gosh, it's so much harder. I'm 54, and I know you and I are about the same age. And
Yes, I'm
many,
56.
yeah, and many of your listeners too. So yeah, we're all in the same boat
Mhm.
of wanting to, balance our hormones and help ourselves out. And I didn't realize how much alcohol was, again, amplifying PMS, amplifying all the perimenopause symptoms and into menopause, and then the anxiety piece. Oh my gosh, I just thought my anxiety was getting higher because I was getting older and knew more about life, and life got
Yes,
more
right.
stressful, and my kids
Mhm.
were getting older. But alcohol actually is like pouring gasoline, specifically on the emotion of anxiety and just those anxious thoughts. They're not just in your head, it's really in your body. And it's a chemical that literally, when you are drinking alcohol, everything that goes up must come down. So that euphoric bliss, that buzz, that first drink high that we all drink for. I mean, or we wouldn't do it at all. Let's be honest. We have that first drink and we're like, ah, there it is. Shoulders
Yes,
go
yes.
down. We're like, yes. And our brain is like, ding, ding, ding. There's the reward.
Mhm.
That's what we end up chasing, is that momentary high. But we know that alcohol is really a depressant. So it feels good in the moment, but boy, does it drag us down. And so actually our anxiety gets higher after drinking because our cortisol rises. In fact, it doesn't only rise the over the night, it stays higher for days after we drink. Even one drink increases our cortisol levels. And we wake up with that dreaded 3 a.m. wake up call, which we just blame it on, you
Mhm.
know, menopause and hot flashes.
Yes.
Well, alcohol is literally increasing that. In fact, that's my next point. Alcohol increases hot flashes and night sweats. Alcohol acts as um, oh, that's a big word. That's like a science word. Whoa, I'm sorry. I should have read that before. Vasodilator. Oh,
Oh, I've heard, yes, yes, I know
you
what
know what
you're
I'm talking
talking about.
about? Okay,
I've
at
heard
least
that
at
before.
least your listeners know I'm a real person,
Yes.
not a scientific AI robot, because that's a word I wasn't familiar with saying. But basically, it increases blood flow to the skin, which we're going to increase more frequent and intense hot flashes. It also, alcohol disrupts body temperature regulation, worsening night sweats and sleep disturbances. So if you're already feeling like you're walking, like if you're like a walking furnace, alcohol turns up the heat. It literally makes you hotter from the inside out with the blood flow changing.
Yeah.
So And then you've got the impact on sleep. We all know in our 50s, especially, I feel like, and beyond, sleep is like the holy grail of like, don't mess with my sleep. It's like elusive. It's like the wind. We're trying to catch that good night's sleep. So we do all these things by day, and then at night, we think we're actually helping ourselves out by, quote, the nightcap, right?
Yes.
Which is
Yeah.
really a marketing term for nighttime drinking, because a nightcap, yeah, well, drinking can help you go to sleep in the sense that it can kind of knock you out, but it does not help you stay asleep.
No.
So, yeah, even small amounts, 1 to 2 glasses reduces REM and deep sleep. Um, Attributing to the 3 a.m. wake up call. And during perimenopause, when sleep is already fragile, like it's already so hard to find, this hits women even harder. So, alcohol may help you fall asleep. In fact, did you know this, Holly? I didn't know this till I did my deep dives. About 20% of habitual drinkers use alcohol as a sleep aid, as a nighttime sleep aid. And I was one of them. I would have it at 5 p.m. as kind of
Yes.
thinking it was kind of like an upper, like an energy thing, like it would make me more looking alive in my own life in my kitchen while I was
Right.
cooking. Or, you're going out on the town and you're like, yeah, this will keep me up. This will wake me up. I'll be more fun. Okay, that's one drink. But then a few hours later, you're like, and I think I'll have one more because I think I'll just go to sleep that way.
Right? Yes.
That was
Correct.
me. It was the bottle breakdown. I talk about
Mhm.
this a lot in my coaching program, where I talk about the bottle breakdown, how you have that first glass at 5 o'clock, because it's just like while you're cooking, or like you meet, friends for drinks, and it's just that casual one. And then you have the second one while you're, eating the dinner, not while you're getting ready or cooking it, but while you're eating it or while you're there. Then you maybe have one afterwards. If you're in your own kitchen, you're going to have that third glass while you're cleaning. Because
Right.
I would have a glass while I was cooking, have a glass while I was eating. Well, I think I'll top it off a little bit while I'm cleaning. That's boring. So why
And
not
then you
have a
look at
little
the
Pinot
bottle
Grigio
and
with my 80s music in the kitchen? Who cares? And then before I know it, I look at the bottle and I'm like, oh crap, I am 3/4 of the way through this sucker, and I wasn't even gonna drink tonight. I was
Mhm.
just gonna talk myself into having a glass. And then that's when I would do the bottle breakdown, and I would have that fourth glass, that last pour, and take it to the bathtub. And then that would be like my nighttime. Like, I'll just kind of glide into bed. I don't really care anymore because at this point, I'm just kind of drifting through life. Unfortunately, over time, I say unfortunately because it was a real mask to me of what was going on. We just build up tolerance.
Yeah.
I mean, if you would have told me, Holly, that I could do the bottle breakdown and even function when
The
I
next
was in my
day.
younger
Yes.
days,
Right?
I would have been like, oh my gosh, clearly alcoholic behavior, you're crazy. I mean, I don't even know how you can stand up. Well, I can tell you, it's not that hard to do when you build up tolerance over time. I didn't start out being able to drink that much and kind of sashay through my own life. I did eventually get there. And when you build a tolerance, you also increase dependence. They go hand in hand. The
Mm.
higher your tolerance, really the higher your dependence. And again, that is that recipe that we talked about.
Well,
So,
it's not a good recipe. But could we
no,
just go touch on one thing real quick? And that was the anxiety part of it, because it's really interesting. Over the course of, the last 15 years or so since I started the menopause community, anxiety has always been the one of the number one symptoms that women experience. And this is coming from women that never felt this way in the past. They were not filled with anxiety. And then you add in the fact now that we are turning towards a glass of wine in the evening, and you're right, it has that ripple effect. So now you're building up the anxiety, and then it's with you in the morning, and then it's with you through the day, and then you start over again in the evening. Have you found that anxiety has become a bigger issue now for women when they've turned to a glass of wine at night?
absolutely, 100%. It's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Did you have anxiety and that's why you drink, or did you drink because of the anxiety? And it's both. It's this infinity loop of a crazy cycle. And then you start to think you're crazy. There's a lot of that going on in these years where you're like, is it just me? But no, it's not just you. You're not alone. If you're like, gosh, when I drink, my anxiety lifts. Well, it's because we're deadening, we're numbing the very emotion
Mhm.
of reality and anxiety. Brene Brown, who has been living this alcohol-free lifestyle, sober lifestyle for many, many years. I think she just celebrated like 25 years of sobriety. She has a famous quote. I say it's famous because I say it all the time. You can't selectively numb. So when you're numbing out your sadness, your anxiety, your boredom, your loneliness, when you numb that out, which it works, we can admit it, alcohol is effective in the short term. It's very effective because it numbs out, but alcohol doesn't selectively numb. So it also, at the same time, numbs your joy, your resilience, your self-trust. It's numbing you. It's numbing all of you, not just the parts of you that you'd like to turn down. It numbs all of you. So when that numbing wears off, you're not only left with all of the emotions that you numbed, you're left with also the shame and the regret of checking out or numbing out because that maybe wasn't, what you intended to do. It creates this hangxiety, which is a hangover and anxiety together, hangxiety. And sadly, but truly, sometimes the most effective way in the short term to get rid of that feeling is to have another drink.
Yes.
The drink
Right.
itself, which actually caused much of the problem, becomes again the solution to the problem that it's causing, or I should say amplifying. And so it becomes this crazy loop where it's like, I'm drinking because I'm more anxious, but I'm also more anxious because I'm drinking. You're still never really out of that loop. Let's say you drink over the weekend and then you're like, Monday, not drinking. Tuesday, no way. Wine Wednesday, starting to look good, but no, I'm holding off for the weekend. By the time you show up for the weekend, you're still scratching the itch that alcohol itself created. You're actually in withdrawal. Even if you're a gray area drinker, withdrawal feels like anxiety. It feels like restlessness. It feels like something just like, I just want to drink. And then what happens is we drink and our brains are like, there it is. That was the solution. That's what we needed to feel better. Really, what we're finding is it just starts the loop all over again. It starts the detox to retox loop. You can do that every day. You can do that every weekend. You can do that every month, but it's still the same loop.
How do you recognize that moment when you realize you need to make that change?
Yeah. And I think we all know that gentle nudge, that whisper. We can try to distract ourselves, but when for me, I for sure knew I was there when I was like, wow, I'm reaching for the glass. And before the wine or alcohol, whatever you're choosing was in my body, my reward receptors were already dinging, going off. Dopamine hit. You actually get a dopamine hit just by pulling the glass down and thinking about drinking before it's even in your body. So when I knew that I was that anticipating that feeling before I even had anything in my body, I was already feeling like, and then I was sometimes pouring a drink that I didn't even want because I wanted the feeling. I wanted the buzz. I thought, well, if I don't pour this drink, what will I do? How will I feel? And I didn't want that. Even though I didn't always love the routine I was in, it was predictable. And once I got going, it was familiar. And my brain was like, ding, ding, ding. The chatter could stop. The mental tug of war was over just for a moment. And I was rewarded for that. But it came back with a vengeance, going, okay, I'm there in my kitchen. It is 5 o'clock, 9 o'clock. I want to drink, but I don't want to drink. I want to drink less and I end up drinking more. What is happening? This divided mind. And I think it's right then and there that you realize I'm not really in control anymore. Now the drink is controlling me because now I'm managing it and I'm adjusting to it. I'm giving it what it's saying it'll give me. And that's when I knew. No.
Where do we start then?
Yeah. Good question, Holly, because it is a bit of an unraveling. Because we didn't get there overnight, and so we can't get out of there overnight. But really, the best place to start, I do have a free guide that is called the Happy Hour Survival Guide. It literally has 5 strategies that women can use tonight, like during your wine o'clock bewitching hour. For me, those hours were between 5 and 8 p.m. That 3-hour window was like, oh my gosh, if I can make it through that window, I've got it, you know. So a lot of it is pre-deciding. We talked to earlier when you and I, before we hit record, we're talking about the P's, the 3 P's. Pre-deciding is so big. And somebody may be thinking, well, how is pre-deciding different than just your good intentions at 10 a.m.? I had those too. I would go work out with good intentions. I'm not drinking tonight. Pre-deciding is literally taking it off the table. It is not, I'm just going to see how it goes when I get there. I'm not going on a dinner date with my husband and I'm just going to play it by ear and see what he orders. No, you got to pre-decide and literally make a commitment to yourself to it is off the table. You're not in the heat of the moment, in the feeling of like, I need a drink, trying to decide. You've pre-decided, but we can't just leave it there. You can't just take out alcohol and leave a void. We can't just stand there and go, well, I guess I'll just have water and white knuckle it all evening. That doesn't sound very fun. Give me a drink on that, like no way. So then it's pre-planning. Once you've pre-decided, pre-planning is critical. What are you going to do? What are you going to drink? How can you keep a routine going of the self-care or reward or the end of the day transition? For me, and probably for you too, and many of you listening, drinking to me was like a signal, like, like work hard, play hard, or like at home, I was homeschooling for a while there. It was like, I've been at home all day. How do I know it's nighttime? It was like a transition piece, like a bridge. It was like, oh, okay. I wouldn't quote day drink, even though I did at times. But it was like, oh, if I save it for night, then that makes evening different than day. But you can still do that. So we can't just take alcohol out and leave a void. So after you've pre-decided, you want to pre-plan and decide what you are going to do during that time. Be proactive. Have other drinks in the fridge ready to go. Sparkling waters. I have a long list. If y'all follow me on Instagram, I have a whole highlight bubble of alcohol-free beverages that I highly recommend. So the goal is just it's okay to keep your routine. I mean, you got to cook, you got to go out to dinner, you got to do the things, but what you put in place of alcohol, again, not just looking for another, addiction or mindless sipping. What you're trying to do is be proactive. So you cannot go in without pre-deciding and pre-planning. And so this takes mindfulness, but that's what we're also trying to do as managing our drinking. We think we're bringing in mindfulness, but then we hand the car keys of our mind, if you will, the keys to our mind, to a substance that hijacks our best intention. We are no longer in the driver's seat. So stay in the driver's seat of your own life and be proactive and pre-plan. And then my favorite tool, and again, all this is in my free guide, is to play the movie forward. Play forward. Hey, I know if at 5 o'clock I open a bottle of wine, let's be real. Let's be honest. I'm probably not going to have one glass. I may not do the bottle breakdown, but I'd sure want to, even if I didn't.
Yeah, right.
Even if I showed enough control and constraint and only drank 2 glasses, aka half the bottle, I would be like, wow, that was a struggle. But again, I could do it, but I didn't really want to do it. So playing the movie forward is being really honest with yourself. It really does take like a radical honesty with yourself and going, No, you know what? Every time I go to Mexican food with my friends and say we're going to get a margarita, is that really the only drink I'm having? Or
No.
do I pregame while I'm getting ready? Do I have the margarita with my friends? Maybe we have two, probably. Do I come home and pour something else while I'm watching Netflix? Okay, that's the reality. So playing the movie forward is going, you know what? But if I don't have that first drink, I stay in control in my mind, in my brain. And then I can play the movie forward as well. How do I want to go to sleep tonight? Zoned out, numbed out, or in my right mind? If I wake up at 3 a.m. now, I'm like, well, you know, I can listen to a podcast and fall back asleep. I'm not guilt ridden. I don't have a dry mouth. I'm not headaching, you know? So,
Did this
anyway.
change any of your new attitude? Did it change any of your relationships with friends or even your husband?
I would say, and this is a big statement, but I would say choosing to not drink for me changed all of my relationships. It really did. It changed them all because it changed me.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't going around trying to change anybody else. But I think by changing me, the way I showed up changed the dance that I had with others. So it was less about me trying to change them. My husband, love him, we've been married 30 years. He still drinks. He's a
Mm-hmm.
drinker. We're actually going to a dinner party tonight, and chances are he'll have a drink or two.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the people in the room will, and that's okay. That's okay, because I used to be a drinker too, but now I see myself as a non-drinker. It definitely changed the way I connect with others. I used to see drinking as a connector, like that's our thing, especially with my husband. It was like our activity. It was like, you do you during the day, I'll do me, and then we'll come together around drinking as like our common denominator, almost like our common ground. Like, I know which IPA beer you're going to get, I know which wine I'm going to get, and which patio we're going to sit at. It created a routine in our relationship, and I honestly thought it was connecting. But now really being able to step back and look at it, I see alcohol as disconnecting with friends, with my husband, with myself. I literally look at alcohol as a disconnector because it robs you of your presence. And when you take your presence away, you take connection away. Because before you know it, I mean, I'll just use my husband and I as an example. The first class, we're kind of, buzzing a little bit. Everything's a little bit fun, yay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
slow, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a good feeling. We like that feeling, like, we can relax together. There we are. But what happens over the evening is he'd have another, I'd have another. Now I'm trying to keep up with my man, and what actually happens for us as women, our chemicals change, and we're actually able to. Let me look at my notes because I want to read this right because it's so good. Um, as women age, our liver enzymes and body composition changes. We have less water in our body. I know, counter to how we may feel. We actually have less water in the body, which means alcohol hits us harder and lasts longer. So if you're trying to go toe to toe with your guy or be one of the guys at a networking event, it doesn't work that way. And a lot of us don't know that. So it used to be one glass now feels like three to your body.
Oh,
But remember,
interesting.
our dependence is rising as our tolerance builds. We're like, one, how cute. What a
Yeah,
drink.
right?
Wait, what an appetizer. Like, let's go. Like, how cute. I mean, one, that's never going to do the real trick, whatever we're looking
Mhm.
for. But to our body, it's registering more like three. And so when you have two or three drinks, it is just so much harder on our body as females and as we get older. So I see alcohol now as like I picture two people really wanting to connect. Like, let's
Mhm.
get together for drinks. Like, oh, you're sad, Holly. Let's get together and have a glass of wine and tell me
Yes.
about it.
Hmm.
We think we're connecting because we've been told, socially speaking, that this is the ultimate way of connecting, meeting for drinks. And I think it's really just a bid for connection in our society. We're more disconnected than ever before, even though we've got all this technology and all the things. So we meet for drinks, right? And what happens is we just slowly start to lose our presence. When you lose your presence, you start looking for, well, where's the waiter? I really just want another drink. You become less present with yourself, the person you're with, listening to. By the end of the night, it's kind of just a haze and a bit of a blur. It's less fine tuned, it's less listening, it's less empathy, it's less real connection.
Mhm.
At that point, I think we're getting into kind of a counterfeit connection, which is what my husband and I were kind of living on. I didn't
Yeah.
realize it at the time. We were working hard all day, doing our thing, getting together for drinks at night, whether that be on the front porch, watching a storm roll in or at a fancy restaurant. But we were starting to lose our connection. So by the time the connection starts to lose its force, that's when I would start to maybe some of my real feelings, the sadness, the
Right.
anger. Uh-oh, we all know about that, where it's kind of like your filter. Beep, beep.
Yes.
Your filter. Where does that thing go? Well, you get a little loose behind the controls, and that's really disconnecting when you start kind of losing it. And I certainly did. Or just my emotions felt like they weren't really my own. They weren't.
Or they were exaggerated.
Yeah. So I find that actually
Mhm.
less connecting and unpredictable than just feeling the feels, staying present in your own body, looking across the table or side by side in a rocking chair, and really going, okay, our presence is what is connecting us right now, not what we're doing to disconnect from our presence while we're trying to connect with somebody else. So for me, that really helps me put it in a different light for me. And
Yeah.
and I think that's definitely impacted others. And I think my husband, and my quote heart friends, I call my heart friends because they don't really care if I'm drinking or not, and I
Mhm.
don't really care if they're drinking or not. Um, you know, I don't judge them for drinking, and they don't judge me for not drinking. It's understood because we do have a heart connection. But I did have friends where drinking was our connection, and when I took
Yeah.
that away, there wasn't much substance left.
When did you realize that you needed or wanted to share your experiences and make this more, official?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question, Holly, because it was sooner than you would think. I stopped drinking again. I didn't know I was going to stop drinking when I took my last drink. My hope and desire was just to drink less, but I really wanted to not drink at all. And so I began this journey in April of 2017. And by Christmas of 2017, that December 25th, I'd been about 8 months on this journey and handled, birthdays, anniversary, the summer pool routine where it's like, get on your float and get your, Goombay smash. And I'm like, oh, what's in that thing? I don't know, but my husband just brought me those. Um, and then the holidays, oh my gosh, 2017, it was like cocktail parties were alive and well. Cookie exchanges, let's go, like
Mhm.
everything. And I had remained alcohol free during all of that. And it wasn't in a white knuckling, gritting my teeth kind of way because I'd done that before. It was in a really freedom, thriving. I was learning about alcohol and the science and just starting to feel really good, but also still feeling very alone. At that point, I had not found my people. I had not
Mm.
found a community that tied in the holistic approach of mind, body, and spirit. It was like I could find one over here and something over there, or I could even, go to church and talk about, the spiritual side of things. But there's no way I was going to bring up my relationship with alcohol there. That was like in the spirit. But I wanted to talk about the science, but that was over there. And so what I was looking for personally was a place where mind, body, and spirit could all intersect, and I could take mindset and habit tools and just sheer science like chemicals, like what's going on in my body, and then bring in a faith component without it having to be religious, but
Mhm.
just bring in a faith component. For me, I was looking for this like magical trifecta of all three, and there was nothing out there like that. And so I looked at my husband, Craig, on Christmas Day of 2017. I'm about 8 months alcohol free, not even a full year. And I looked at my husband, Craig, God bless him, who's probably sipping a tequila. And I said, he wasn't, I don't think. I would have. And I said, Craig, man, can't believe it. I made it, it wasn't like I felt like I'd arrived. It was more like a milestone. And I said, man, I wish more women knew what I knew. I wish my friends knew, who constantly we get together and we talk about drinking less or not at all. But it was like the blind leading the blind. None of us knew our way out. Well, I'd kind of gone on this solo journey, and I kind of had been real on the down low about it, not out there talking about alcohol-free living or being sober, curious, or gray area drinking. I wasn't sure how long I could do it. And then I was living it. I wasn't doing it anymore. I was being it. I was becoming this person, not doing these things. And I just looked at Craig and I said, I wish more women knew what I knew. And he said, well, I'd love to help you. I'd love to help make your voice louder.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, babe. What does that mean? I don't even know what that means, but I like it. And, I think God gives us the right people around us when the timing is right to step into our purpose or our passion or our destiny. And I do think that my husband, although sometimes he was one of my biggest triggers, has also been one of my biggest supporters and instrumental in helping me get started, because God had been putting certain things in his life through his real estate business and just his skill set that enabled him to know what to do to help me get started. Mm-hmm. So, you know what I mean? So we, from right there, I was like, well, I'm just going to start writing these things down. So I started an Instagram in March of 2018, which is a picture of a Topo Chico bottle on my back patio. I think my mom followed me. I don't know at that point, I didn't know anything about social media or digital marketing or like how to build a community or build anything like it's become. But I think that was the beauty of it. I think if I would have known what was going to happen, I would have been, intimidated or overwhelmed or thought, I am 47 years old. There's no way I can learn all that technology. I think God, in his goodness and mercy, enabled me to just take it one day at a time, one little bitty baby step at a time. And now it's turned into like my life's work, like my mission in life is to bring this awakened freedom, this joy of being present, awake, alert, aware in your own life, which is not always joyful. It's not always easy. I mean, I'm not here to sit here and say, I love it all the time, being present 24/7. No, sometimes I do want to hit the eject button, if you will.
Yeah.
But I have tools in place for that. And I've never regretted not drinking, ever. I've never, ever regretted not drinking.
How can a woman expect to feel once she's made the decision to give up drinking, and how good it's going to feel, maybe not that first day, but somewhere down the road?
Good question, Holly, because I think so often, when we're drinking, we're looking for relief. Mm-hmm. When really what our soul longs for, our body longs for, our mind is longing for is real rest. We're looking for rest. I mean, this world we live in is so fast paced. There's so much hustle. It's so chaotic. We're really looking for rest, and we're settling for relief. And so what I think women can expect to find when they venture on this journey, it's like an epic adventure. They're going to find more of the rest, and they're going to feel the relief from lack of the mental tug of war, from releasing the decision fatigue. And decision fatigue is a very real thing, and it's what wears us out. By the time we do get to that 5 o'clock, we're just worn out. And I think being able to start resting in the evenings, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, all the ways that we can really rest, then we wake up the next day and we're not as thirsty for this relief in a bottle. We're longing for more rest. And I think that if anyone's out there just tired, weary, literally weary from the fight of the cycle, the detox to retox cycle, because it in and of itself is exhausting. It's really tiring being a drinker. And again, some women listening are like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, I don't know if I never wanna drink it," if I wanna say I'll never drink again.
Yeah,
And
right.
I think that's too big of a step. So that's why I say focus on taking a break. Focus
Mhm.
on, every month. I know you and I are recording this and you're going to be able to get it out. And at the beginning of every month, I offer a 21-day reset challenge.
Mhm.
And I call it a reset challenge because we're going to do two things. We're going to reset. It's just an opportunity to hit the reset button, to get off of autopilot, get out of the mindless sipping into mindful choosing. And what if you could give yourself 21 days of the rest you need instead of just chasing the relief that never really lasts? After 21 days, you're going to know what that feels like, to feel the freedom from letting go of the wine o'clock mental tug of war. And then you can choose what to do after that. But I work with many, many women who, after 21 days, even if they slipped up and had a drink or two, we don't view that as a setback in our group. It's not like a day one where you like start over. It's
Yeah,
like,
right.
hey, valuable feedback. We call it data. We call it like recon. So if you had a drink on a Friday night, but you hadn't drank for 6 days, how did you feel during? How did you feel before, during, and after? And really like journal about it. Write about it in our community. We want to know because we're not going to shame you for your slip up. We're not going to call it a setback. Instead, we see it as valuable feedback and kind of
Mhm.
fuel for your fire of like, well, what do you want? Maybe not that. So let's try again. Every day's a new day. So the 21 days even isn't about perfection or performance. Perfectionism and performance are the very reasons that we want to drink in the first place. Often
Mhm.
it's the pressure, it's the performing, it's the I've got to do this right or not at all. And our whole mentality, my mentality is, hey, take a baby step, get some progress under your belt, get some valuable feedback in an atmosphere where you're not going to be shamed, where you're
Mhm.
not going to be judged. There are no rules. The rules are show up authentically, be yourself, and tell us what you're learning along the way. And so I think that that really helps too, to take off that pressure of like, I either, have a problem or I don't. What if you think you might need to drink less or not at all? And you just want a place where you can wrestle with it out loud and
Mhm.
figure it out with others in a supportive community versus like checking it in at the door and going, well, you know, I guess I'm done when you were not done at all.
Right, exactly. Well, where's the best place to either find you or to find your community?
Yeah, I've got everything on one website. So if women just want to go to Sober Sis, SOBER Sis, it's really short for Sober Minded Sisterhood.
Mhm.
So don't let the word sober scare you, people. I know sober, the word sober is pretty loaded. I feel like it's got a lot of stereotype and
Yeah.
stigma around it. So when you think of Sober Sis, think of sober minded sisterhood and sober minded living. But I am also at that handle at Sober Sis, one word, on Instagram. And that's where I really produce my most active content. So that's a great place to follow. And I also have a free community. And so every Friday, I do a live workshop in there, like a topic, like
Mhm.
how to navigate the holidays without a drink in your hand. Or at least if it is a drink in your hand, it doesn't need to be alcohol. It can be something else, what to put in your glass. So it's real practical. I'm a real boots on the ground kind of gal where I'm like, okay, we can't just talk about the concepts and fluff it up. I want like tactics, like,
Yes.
okay, neat, Jen, got it. Good for you. What do I do tonight at 5 o'clock? So I really want to help women when the rubber meets the road.
I like that. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time in being here today and sharing your journey and just giving women the confidence to be able to make these choices for themselves and to feel better about their future. Thank you.
You're welcome, Holly. And thank you for having me. I mean, y'all, if I can do it, anybody can do it. So you can do this. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us on Real Insights. If you want to hear more about how other women find their way, order your copy of Empart Real Stories, Real Wisdom, Real Menopause on Amazon today. And don't forget to join the conversation at joinempart.com. Until next time, remember that menopause is a journey, but you're not alone.